Old man yelling at a cloud!
You're listening to the Draft in Hand podcast with your hosts, Greg, Ian, and Mark.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what is wrong with a little bit of creativity? Man, do we ever love guys like Patrick Kane? So creative. Remember Pavel Datsyuk? Creative. Hey, maybe let's hypothesize about some other combination of forwards and defensemen, and all of a sudden, everyone in the hockey world is Grandpa Simpson yelling at cloud. Hi everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Greg. I'm with Ian.
Yo.
And Mark.
Hey.
We're the Draft in Hand podcast, and maybe we're feeling a little bit creative today. Maybe we have some ideas. Maybe we have some thoughts. What are you gonna do about
creative right now.
There's so much talk about free agents, trade rumors, roster moves, in the hockey world. How many rumor websites and social accounts are there nowadays?
400.
Plenty.
Just for the Leafs.
And that's cool. They generate content and interest from certain people. But how many times has Patrick Laine been traded? How many times is he going to be traded this week on the internet, you know? But some people find that interesting. Good for them. On the flip side, there's so little creative thinking about tactics and systems until November 9th. Dave Feschuk wrote an article in the Toronto Star interviewing former AHL assistant coach Jack Hahn. The premise of the article was that teams may look at using, hold your breath, 3 defensemen and 2 forwards on the ice at the same time.
That's a lot of block shots.
God.
Might not even need a goalie.
Right? Exactly, right.
Let's go
You
forward.
can play with 4 defensemen on at once if you pull the goalie.
Let's use 5.
No.
Let's use 6. Let's pull the goalie and use 6.
Yeah, but you got Austin Matthews. What if you have Austin Matthews?
This article really didn't explain too much about the concept. It briefly mentioned some hockey people looked over at soccer and went, But what really got me was nobody ran with this idea. Radio stations in Toronto talked about it with such little enthusiasm and imagination. It was like they were being held hostage. Like, can you not imagine a scenario where this might make sense? Especially seeing some positional innovation in the World Series. The Tampa Bay Rays ran 4 outfielders several times. Like, just straight 4 out. Like, how does that scoring work if it flies out to that 4th outfielder?
Wouldn't it just be whatever the position they're taking on the infield?
F10. Like, you're right, I guess. But, and the infield shift is commonplace nowadays.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Do you have any idea how conservative baseball is? Very. And the Raptors, praised for their defensive coverage en route to, how did they do in 2019?
They won.
Oh, yeah, they were champions. Too bad creativity works in baseball and basketball, but doesn't work in hockey. Gee whiz. Gee whiz, guys. What a shame.
Gee whiz.
So we wrote the framework for this episode back in September, and we dove for our tinfoil hats when this article dropped in early November. But we came at this topic from a completely different angle. Quite frankly, the way the article dropped, the farticle. Is that kind of what it was? And how this idea circulated, it was like having the conversation but starting halfway through. Like, pick your favorite book and hand it to a friend who's never read it. But before you do,
Screech owls.
Just rip the book in half.
Where's Waldo?
Rip Where's Waldo in half.
Or just cut him out.
and hand that second half of the book to them. They'll be like, what the shit is this? You know, they'll read the book and be like, this book is horrible. It makes no sense. Who the fuck is Harry Potter? And basically, that's what the media and social media reaction was to the story. And this is probably because the team they were talking about famously is not good at defense. So why double down on something you're ungood at?
Which team was that?
So we have a different starting point for this conversation. So a team that I've been following for the better part of the past 2 decades. So Ian's a Red Wings fan, and the Red Wings always seem to play the Nashville Predators in the first round, like in the mid 2000s. It seemed like Nashville and Detroit always played each other. So I kind of was cheering for Nashville. I started, like they got good goaltending, they have really good defense. They're a scrappy team. They're likable. They're easy to cheer for.
They don't have many scorers, but
back then
made
they
it
didn't.
interesting.
Back then they were they were scoring by committee, and they weren't doing that much. But
Their committee was their defense.
Speaking of defense, Ian, I sort of want to put a spin on this article, this idea, the 3 defensemen idea, but look at it through the lens of the Nashville Predators. So I have a list of defensemen here that have been drafted by Nashville. So let's just go through this list. So Nashville drafted a gentleman by the name of Shea Weber. Mark, you want to tell us about Shea Weber?
Yeah, he's pretty good. What's funny, too, he wasn't even drafted in the first round.
No, he was a second-round draft pick.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good pick by Nashville.
Friggin', where'd they take him, mid-second round? Almost 40 teams didn't pick that guy.
I feel like he was around 40.
Yeah.
Back in 2003, so that was a while ago.
Yeah.
That was a crazy draft.
That was a crazy draft. Speaking of that draft, in the same draft, who did the Nashville Predators take before him?
Was it Roman Josi?
No.
Ryan Suter?
Ryan Suter. Ian, you want to tell us about Ryan Suter?
No. Well, he's been consistently good defensively.
He's a minute eater, man. Almost 30 minutes. He's averaging almost 30 minutes a season. It's just fucking,
a night per
that's
season,
fucking
yeah.
nuts.
And his point production has been like average like 40-50 for the
It's
past
gradually
like
gone up
50.
the last couple of years,
No,
though,
but
a
like
little bit.
for the past like 15 years, he's been around 40-50 points a season.
Something like that.
Not a power play guy, really,
No,
in
he's
a traditional
he's just
sense.
straight up just a friggin' inning eater.
Won a gold medal
minute
with
eater. Sorry.
won a gold medal with US back in 2004.
I'm sure he'd eat some innings too.
Yeah.
How about Roman Josi? And you want to tell us about Roman Josi?
He won the Norris last year.
He's okay.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
Best
Honestly,
defenseman to come out of Switzerland.
Yes.
watch him play.
Where'd my beer
He is a treat to watch. It's just like, who's that with the puck in the corner? Why is Roman Josi the deepest player
he's
for
in on the
Nashville?
play first before half
And
the
then
forwards.
all of a sudden
Correct.
the play's going the other way, and he's the first guy back.
Yeah, he takes slap shots from literally wherever the fuck he wants on the ice.
Yeah.
How about, Mark, you want to tell us about Matthias Ekholm, Nashville draft pick 2009?
Oh, yeah, he's not bad.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. How about, Mark, you want to tell us about Sam Girard? How about 2016 draft pick Sam Girard?
Yeah, once again, Nashville finding another gem in the second round that they traded.
That they moved.
That they moved. Already over 200 NHL games played, which is pretty crazy considering he was drafted in 2016. There's a few guys drafted ahead of him who haven't played that many games yet.
Seth Jones, 2013 Nashville pick.
Probably the worst one-for-one trade in the past 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's up there.
I mean,
One
Ryan
for one?
Johansson's, he's not bad, but like he's no Seth Jones.
It's no Seth Jones.
Seth Jones was playing over 30 minutes a game against Toronto this past
In the playoffs.
playoffs. Like he was dicking them. Every time Seth Jones was on the ice, you saw the impact he
Puck
made.
was never in the Columbus zone.
Or if it was, it wasn't for long.
It wasn't for long.
And he's another world junior gold medalist. I think 2013 again with US.
So what that tells you, states can only win when they got defensemen.
That's I guess so.
Last gold medal,
Yeah.
What was that? John Carlson in overtime?
John Carlson in overtime. Mark, tell us a little bit about Ryan Ellis.
Oh,
2009 pick by
yeah, he's a
Preds.
world junior hero,
yeah,
Workhorse.
legend.
but he's up there.
Almost frick. If he was almost on any other team in the NHL, he'd be definitely first, maybe second. If you want to put him on your second pairing, you could, but he'd definitely be a first pairing defenseman in my eyes. And he's got a wicked
on a lot of
beard.
teams.
Yeah, I was gonna say
And
I
he's got
love
a
his
And a
wicked
wicked beard.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah,
Little undersized though, but he plays tough as well.
we could go down a list of teams. We're not going to do that right now, but we could go down a list of teams that Ryan Ellis could be a top pair defenseman on
Yeah.
Yeah, we could.
easily. How about another?
They have more?
Sorry,
They have more that they've drafted?
Yes.
Holy
These
fuck.
are all Nashville Predator draft
No
picks,
way.
defensemen. How about Dante Fabro, 2016, a little more recent. Ian, you got any info on him?
Again, gold medal winner for Canada in 2018, I think
World
it was.
Juniors, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. He's a young prospect.
Nashville's good at drafting winners.
Could be going somewhere.
And here's a bit of a blast from the past. Do you guys remember Dan Hamhuis, 2001 draft pick? He just retired this past August. That's
he
how
went
long
back
he's
to
been in the
Nashville
league.
though for his last year, didn't he?
He was
After his stint
back
in
and forth
Vancouver?
in Vancouver,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So again, you know what? I've just listed 9 defensemen. That was 9 defensemen drafted by Nashville that have all, in Dan Hamhuis' case, had a very successful NHL career, or are in the middle. And for some of these guys like Dante Fabro,
Starting.
Sam Girard, just starting.
There's definitely a few of those who are potential Hall of Famers as well.
I mean, you have a list. You have a list
Yeah.
of guys.
You could argue
the top
almost
4
half
or
that
5.
list. Almost half that list are going to be Hall of Famers.
So, in among this idea of using 3 defensemen, I've sort of gone ahead and given you 9. And okay, so let's assume Dan Hamhuis retires, so he's out of the picture. Throw in Nashville just signed Mark Barowicki this pat off season. I don't want to call it summer. I almost said summer. It was sort of summer.
Boro Cup.
Yeah. So there's 9 defensemen that the Nashville Predators could, if they didn't trade. Imagine Nashville had run the 3 defensemen, 2 forward system with these guys. So imagine they dressed 9 forwards, 9 defensemen. There's your 18 skaters, right?
Correct.
And they could have had some combination of running 3 forwards, then running 3 defensemen, flipping back and forth.
Yeah, the way the play's going.
Yeah, with
How your team's playing.
because
it's
let's
hot.
What period it's in.
and depending on the score, depending on whatever the momentum of the game, power play, penalty kill, they traded away. Nashville traded away Sam Girard in the Kyle
It was
Turris.
a big the Matt Duchene trade. It was that big 3-way trade with Ottawa.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they traded Sam Girard, and I mean, they kind of lost that trade, I guess, right? Like,
Yeah.
basically, they didn't make out well on that one.
No.
Shea Weber they traded away for PK Subban. And to the credit of that trade, that helped them go to the Stanley Cup final.
Didn't Subban win the Norris on?
I don't think so.
But he's no longer
No,
with the Predators.
he won it on Montreal, I think.
So he's no longer with the team. So I mean, like that trade, the longevity of it's not there. Seth Jones, Ian said the Seth Jones for Johansson trade is maybe the worst 1-for-1. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I mean, you could make that argument.
It's pretty bad.
And Ryan Suter walked free agency.
Yeah, I can't do anything about that.
Yeah,
Went
signed
back
that
home.
massive contract in Minnesota. So you can't do anything about that.
No.
But
They could have signed him.
hold on, but those 4, they could. Yeah, you could have done something. But that was around the same time, I think that was within a year or two that the Flyers offer sheeted Weber, wasn't it?
With that, yeah.
So between Girard, Seth Jones, Shea Weber, Ryan Suter, name a better decor in the NHL than the ones that Nashville that evaporated from Nashville's hands.
Maybe the one that Nashville has right
Maybe the one they have now. I mean, you can make Tampa's is pretty good.
now. Tampa's is pretty good.
Like you know what I mean? Like you can't argue with a cup winner, but between those 4 guys and the guys they have, imagine they dressed. Now in a different world, little bit alternate reality, because that's what we're sort of doing here. We're sort of going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but this seems a little bit more plausible than the scenario that was drawn up in the Toronto media in early November.
Yeah, but that's because the Leafs' defense have been garbage for I don't know how long.
Right. So use what you got.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Use what you got. So how would this work? How do you run a system with 2 forwards and 3 defensemen?
You obviously would. It would be a rover.
Sure. Okay.
It would be, to get it going, I think it would be really hard because a lot of NHL coaches are so stuck into their style that I don't think any coach now would be fit to do it or interested in doing it because it's not their motive.
They didn't get to the
grow
NHL
up
doing
it,
that.
but I think you could potentially see it where because there's a whole lot of a new kind of style of analytic and just play style where everything is just played as one group together.
Sure.
Where position is interchanging and like, hey, if I can rely on my two wingers to, if I'm the center, if I can rely on my two wingers to back me up, I don't always have to worry about being back first or hustling my ass. I know my winger's going to be there. Or if you have a defenseman there, you know he's going to do his part to be back playing defense anyway because it's premeditated.
Yeah. Yeah. Once if the
brain.
team learns a system like that.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of teams are running that umbrella offense too. They're like running the three guys up high near the blue line while they're in the offensive zone.
So along that, it's basically, so for anyone who is unfamiliar, the umbrella power play essentially is one guy at the top on the blue line.
Not even on the power play. They use it as like a regular zone.
Right.
Yeah,
and then two guys sort of not at either at top of the circle or maybe a little bit more towards the blue line, but it's sort of three guys along. Three guys up high.
Three guys up
in the
high.
zone, and two guys down low to cycle.
Yeah.
So there is that forecheck. You could sort of run it kind of like an umbrella, like a power play style, right? Where you do have that I think the high cycle, where they're cycling around the blue line is so deadly because you're almost always in shooting position. A cycle down low.
You got to get the puck back up high in order to get a shot.
Exactly. You can't shoot the puck from below the goal line.
But the thing about having the puck going from down low to up high is that you have to get
sticks in the way.
Well, if you guys have the puck, you know exactly where it's going. But if the other team has their back to it, now they have to go back and looking to the front of the net. One, the goalie has to move his head to see what the hell's going on as well, and two, the players have to turn.
And even if it's a high cycle, as soon as you put the puck to net, everyone turns.
Exactly.
So, and there is a forecheck as well that and you don't see it run too often, but when you see it run, I know the Bruins have done this. I don't know if it's recently, but over the past 5 years, I've seen the Bruins and a couple other teams do this, not for extended periods of time, but for a few shifts at a time. You basically you get the puck in deep, and then you have your two forwards chase. You have three of your players on their blue line. You have one defenseman. You sort of spread your defensemen out so that they're a little closer to the boards than usual, and you put that third forward in the middle on the blue line. And whichever lane the opposition tries to break out
from behind their net or whatever.
Yeah, if they come up the boards, that one defenseman crashes down like crazy, and the whole idea is to make contact to hit the guy.
Yeah.
Hit the guy.
And the only way they can get the puck out if the guy's there is to try to force it up the middle.
Oh, which in that case, the middle guy, that forward, that third
slowly
player on the blue line, he comes crashing down too because you already have two guys on the point. And whichever lane that player along the blue line crashes down in, the other two guys on the blue line you have just sort of move back and forth or squeeze to filter in.
Yeah, they're just zone covering.
So it's not an aggressive forecheck from an offensive standpoint. It is an aggressive forecheck from a physicality standpoint because you have one of those three guys. Whenever you get the puck, that outlet pass,
whoever's trying to get that puck out, they're getting hit.
You have somebody barreling down on you. Now I know there's less contact in the league nowadays, but
when you're doing that in the playoffs, though, when refs turn their eye on a lot more shit, it's a very, very good tactic.
What if those three players are all defensemen?
Well,
in quotations, defensemen in quotations.
No, but if you look at it as well, those four guys you brought up, I don't know how Ryan Suter is for like hits per game, but I know Seth Jones and Weber definitely throw their body around a lot.
Yeah, it'd be tough to play against.
So, just for fun, I put together three lines, and keeping in mind handedness before everyone freaks out. Roman Josi. And you know what? And this just might give the conversation a little bit more something to grab onto, just if we use names instead of hypothetical players. So, say you have Roman Josi in the middle. He's left-handed. Well, in the middle of your three defenseman thing, with maybe Sam Girard and Seth Jones. Sam Girard's left, but Seth Jones is right. So you have a right-handed defenseman on that line. So Josi, Girard, Jones. How about as a second trio? You have Shea Weber, right-handed, with Ryan Ellis, right-handed, mobile defenseman Ryan Ellis, and Matthias Ekholm, left-handed. So you have two solid kind of, rough guys, Weber and Ekholm. That's a left and right-handed shot.
Complemented with defensive studs in the middle.
With the Ryan Ellis. So you have two rights and a left. And then your third your third trio, Ryan Suter, left-handed, Dante Fabro, right-handed, and then Mark Barwicki, left-handed. Right, and sorry, just we're throwing in Barwicki. He's not a draft pick of Nashville, but just sort of to replace Dan Hamhuis, just for a ninth guy. If you're going to start getting your knickers in a twist over the ninth guy on this list, I'm going to politely tell you.
It's like being upset about a backup catcher.
I'm going to politely tell you to go fuck yourself. Like, come on, you can sign a guy.
Yeah, at least it's not Cody Ceci.
Oh, jeez. But I feel like there's just, you have so many. Again, you could even.
You don't even have to do it every game.
You don't have to do it every game. You don't have
to do it every shift.
You could run. Are you trying to tell me Seth Jones couldn't play wing and
for a few shifts
and get by? So you could run just a regular
Sam
forecheck.
Definitely good.
Sam Girard, exactly.
Well,
so that first line.
Like, these guys are all so good if they can figure it out. Like, why are you trading away? Like, why get rid of your best players? Why not, like,
use what you have?
Use what you have.
Yeah. So like, how about this idea? You have one defenseman. Roman Josi, you're the one defenseman. Seth Jones and Sam Girard. So let's talk about that top trio. Either one of Seth Jones or Sam Girard is going to be a defenseman with Roman Josi. The other one is going to become a winger. However, on any given shift, the other team doesn't know if it's going to be Seth Jones or Sam Girard.
No, it'd be impossible to line match.
Or even Roman Josi.
Well, and if you designate Roman Josi as
it'd be impossible to line match.
You couldn't rely. Well, yeah, it's like, what are we going to get
and
this shift?
And for you, like, you don't have to worry about line matching.
You being the Predators.
Yes.
In this scenario. Okay, yes. I understand. Yeah. Yeah,
you almost want to worry about, you still want your guys against a certain guys, but there's less of a frantic panic to be like, oh shit, my third line's out with three forwards who don't know what the hell they're doing behind, like, outside like the offensive blue line.
Right.
It's like, oh, I got three really good defensemen out there that I trust that aren't going to give up a goal.
Yeah, and at any given time, here's an idea. At any given time, you might see a defenseman pinch, just like Ian said earlier. You would see Roman Josi on the forecheck, just as much as you see
watching Erik Karlsson play in time in Ottawa.
So imagine you had. Why would you never see two defensemen forecheck though?
Because you only have two defensemen on the ice.
What if you didn't?
Exactly. I know, but you can make that argument now if you have more than two.
Wow. What if two defensemen? And this is I don't want to get too crazy here, but hear me out. The puck comes up to sort of Sam Girard's side. Say Sam Girard and Roman Josi are on the point. They're in the offensive zone. They're on the blue line. Seth Jones is behind the net just because he was acting as a winger. Puck comes up the boards to Sam Girard's side. He takes the puck, rushes down the boards. Roman Josi, left-handed shot, barrels down into the slot as well. Two defensemen pinch at the same time. How messed up would that be for the wingers that are supposedly covering the point?
On the other team?
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be if, like, you wouldn't know what you're doing until, like, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, who am I covering?
Who am I covering? What's going on? Where's my hat?
You almost have to turn into a man-on-man coverage.
Seeing this play develop, Seth Jones comes up the boards just on the opposite side that Sam Girard was coming up. So
I get confused when one defenseman starts running up this ice.
But if Seth Jones just sort of cycles back from behind the net or whatever, he takes a few strides, he's back up to the blue line, so he's covering the double pinch. And Roman Josi, remember, left-handed, if he's coming into the slot in Sam Girard was on the left side. He's one timer.
Shot side, yeah.
Shots. That is dangerous. Yeah. Hey, if you were a goalie, would you like to see a one timer?
You can answer this question.
I know, but I haven't seen shots of this caliber, so let's not put ourselves in those people's shoes. But so Roman Josi takes a one-time slap shot from, I don't know, the hash marks,
the high slot. It's probably going in.
He's breaking an ankle.
He's breaking something. So, you know what I mean? Like, you get all these creative examples. Like, I don't think three defensemen necessarily means that you're going to be more defensive or more puck possession. It just gives you a little bit more creativity. And of course, the average defenseman nowadays isn't that big, burly, I can only skate backwards, push people over guy. He's Sam Girard, Quinn Hughes.
Carr.
Yeah. Kale McCarr.
Mira
Like-
Heiskanen,
You got some,
Klingberg,
and of course we're naming the better ones, but like there's
Riley.
Morgan Riley's so good at going end to end.
but every team has a couple of these young guys now that are so good at skating. Like if you were to watch them, if they didn't have numbers and didn't have names, and they only had practice jerseys, and you just said go out and play whatever position you want, you almost couldn't pick out defensemen and forwards. Your average person couldn't.
No, not really anymore.
You'd be able to tell a couple defensemen just because it's like, okay, they seem to be a little less creative with the puck or whatever
Not even
around the
sometimes.
net. But you can't tell me that Seth Jones or Sam Girard or Ryan Ellis, like, you know what I mean? Like these kind of guys. Like when you have defensemen like this, you have those sorts.
You take your advantage of it.
Exactly.
Well, you look at this last playoffs, and Victor Hedman almost set the record for most goals in a Stanley
defenseman?
Cup.
Yeah, here's a
Playoffs.
stat. Here's a stat we weren't prepared for, but how many goals did Hedman score compared to all the other forwards? He beat a lot of other forwards. I mean, a lot of his goals are scored from the blue line, but you don't have to stay on the blue line, guys.
He did. He definitely didn't
Well, it's
score
a skill scoring
all
from
of
the
them.
freaking blue line, though.
Yeah. Oh, I 100%. But if we're saying, hey, one of these guys play forward, or one of these guys, you now have the ability to kind of go wherever you want on the ice, like Ian said previous, a bit of a rover. Man, these defensemen, they have more, and if they're no superstar forward. They're no, like I mentioned off the top, Patrick Kane and Pavel Datsyuk.
What would happen if like that came into like if it comes into like somebody coach starts doing it and like that team that like one defenseman on that team like who's been playing forward switching around?
Yeah.
You think he's playing forward but playing defense?
Yeah.
Could you go for Norris?
Yeah, you'd really mess up the rewards.
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of like Bufflin. Bufflin was always well,
Buffalo
not
was never
always,
Norris
but he was
caliber.
but he was like he was playing wing mostly in Chicago. And then all of a sudden he was playing defense, and then he was up there with defense in points, and it's just like, what the hell is going on with
Yeah.
this guy?
Brett Burns as well.
Yeah, well,
He was a wing experiment in Minnesota. I don't think he ever did it in San Jose, but in Minnesota early in his career,
he was playing forward.
he was playing some forward.
No, I think he played forward early in San Jose.
You might be right. You could be right, but he definitely did. He was another one of those guys.
Who
Just
is
same
his
with
D
Dustin
pair
Hoffman.
though in San Jose?
Vlasic.
Yeah, Vlasic, probably one of the best defensive
think it was
defensemen in the
Vlasic.
game.
Right.
Well, not anymore. But
Well, he was
on-
at the time.
He was on,
Yeah, he was on-
the Canadian Olympic team.
he
at
was
one
on the
point.
Olympic team
2010,
years ago.
2010.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
And I honestly didn't really know about Vlasic until I saw him here. I'm like, oh shit, this guy's good.
He's pretty good. But again, coming back to this group of Predator draft picks we're talking about, there's few slouches on this. There's none. There's no blemishes on this list, realistically. So a team, instead of trading away essentially one of the best, or letting one of the best decor potentially in the league right now walk in that group of players.
Yeah, just
Hang
the
on to
decor.
him. And listen, if you're gonna be one of those guys, that gets, all upset because the cap wouldn't work, this is just more of a proof of concept. So just settle down. Why don't you just grab yourself a drink, settle down. Okay, we appreciate the math that a lot of these cap websites do, or all the people that are managing all the cap. We appreciate that, but like, this is just a proof of concept. Like, hey, this team could have maybe done something in a quote unquote non-traditional hockey market. So, the fans might have been a little bit more, the media would have been a little bit more, or the organization could have been a little
seriously,
bit more
would it
open
have-
to
Get in
this
depth,
idea.
You probably can fit that.
I was gonna say, would it have not worked? Like, who's making that much money? Of
You wouldn't
those
really have
guys?
to pay forwards a lot of money either.
All right, you say 6 of those 9 are making $5 million each. That's $30 million.
Yep.
You still have another $60 million in your cap.
Yeah. Plus
Or
you got to
50.
plus your goalies, plus and then you probably, like, don't get me wrong. I still think you want to have a power play unit. You still have 9 forwards.
Yeah.
You maybe just eliminate like your second line.
Or your
Basically.
fourth line.
Well, your fourth, no, but in terms of like salary value.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
So, and then there's nothing preventing you from at any point in time just being like, guys, we're going back to the traditional 3-2
Think about it
forwards
this
defense.
way. You still got your 9 forwards, and you're adding 3 more defensemen. So would you rather have 3 more defensemen on your team, or 3 scrub forwards?
Well, we already
'Cause
see
that'd be your
teams
fourth
running
line.
7
I know.
defensemen.
No, I know. But, like...
No, to your point, exactly.
It's like, hey, but to what Nashville could have done, they could have had, we could have had 3 more really good defensemen. Instead, we got
Nothing.
Kyle Turris,
Ryan Johansson,
Ryan Johansson, and
X.
some other guy.
Yeah, you.
What did they get from Duchesne when he left? Wait, he's still there.
Yeah, Duchesne.
No,
signed
Duchesne. Yeah,
Duchesne signed there. Duchesne went to Ottawa, and then he signed a contract in Nashville.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Turris that came back in that.
Yeah.
Turris that came back in the Sam Girard deal.
Is he still playing?
Turris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They bought him out this past offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still in the league. Yeah, he's still in the league, but he no longer with the Preds.
I just remember him in the juniors, and he was so good.
Yeah, well, he's one of those guys you wish he just had a breakout season and just got the monkey off his back.
Who?
Turris.
Kyle Turris.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't play for the Flyers, you leave, so.
There you go. Now let's go to the 7th inning stretch. This is our off-topic segment. We're just going to tip our cap to the NBA, who have shown leadership this year and previous in so many different categories. The NBA were the first to shut down in March and recognize that the pandemic was something that was beyond sports. They were also the first to start back up again with the playoff bubble. So tip our cap to the NBA for that. Also the WNBA, they're the first organization that's under the umbrella of the NBA, of the one of the large four sporting bodies in North America. So we think it's incredible what the NBA has done to brand the WNBA as an independent piece and to help them and grow both brands at the same time. The NBA has been a leader in civil engagement, social justice, and programs like NBA Together, who has been a huge advocate for mental health and community building. And then during the bubble, the fan interaction, digital engagement, those digital boards that you saw the fans on was absolutely incredible. To see yourself on the board, I didn't see myself. I don't know if Ian and Mark did, but that was incredible to have that level of engagement with the fans during the playoffs. And then for the 2020-2021 restart, NBA again being leaders, putting their flag on the mountain December 22nd. The season starts, I believe, and being the first league to go forward there. So shout out, tip of the cap to the National Basketball Association. Thanks for being leaders in the sporting world. So we're talking about hockey. We're talking about using 3 defensemen, 2 forwards, or a different combination of defensemen and forwards than we normally would see on a day-to-day basis. We talked a little bit about players being, especially defensemen, just being a little bit more skilled nowadays. So Mark has some ideas here. Why not double along the lines of use what you've got? What are some other? You don't have to run. We're not saying we're advocating for 2 forwards and 3 defensemen, but why don't you go the other way?
Yeah, you go with 4 forwards on the ice with 1 defenseman. Doesn't have to be like a play right off a face-off. It could be like, hey, second period, we got the puck in deep for 30 seconds on the other team. Take one of your defensemen off, and if, say, you're the Leafs, you got Marner, Tavares, and say the Mikheyev guy out there. What if we can sneak Matthews out there for another 30 seconds?
Instead of a defenseman.
When
the team's already hemmed in their own zone.
Exactly, in the second period with the long change. Puck gets out, Brett Craig and Matt, it's close, easy for Matthews to change on the way back, going back to the...
Or did you just throw the Matthews line out there?
Oh, yeah, or the 2 forwards come back in transition, Matthews goes back, and you just 5-on-5 regular 3 forwards, 2 defensemen.
Someone's got to be paying attention on the bench, but, what a shame someone has to be paying attention.
Jobs.
Yeah, what a shame someone has to be paying attention.
What a shame your coach has to do his job.
Yeah.
No, it'd be...
I'm sure Sheldon Keith could figure that out. He seems like a smart guy.
Teams run the 4-and-1 on the power play all the time. Like,
yeah.
Why couldn't you do that in transition?
Why can't?
It's not hard.
Sure. No, it's counting. You got to count up to 5.
Well, you just said when they're hemmed, even on an icing call, do it.
Oh, 100. I think that's a great idea.
I know. I put 5 forwards out there off an icing call.
Why not?
Well, I mean,
Riley's just as good as the 5th forward, but yeah.
Or whoever your team has.
Yeah, well, scenario, time of game, you got to take everything into account.
Sure. Yeah, looking at Philly, Provorov would probably be the 5th guy out there. He's probably better than the 5th forward.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Detroit, unless Sider is playing, they'd probably run
Danny
5
DeKeyser,
forward.
man.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Danny DeKeyser.
No.
What's wrong? What about Cholowski's good.
Chulowski? Yeah, Hronik, I think, is their best defenseman coming up.
Yeah, Hronik's sick too.
So
Hronik and Cholowski's good.
Yeah, he's okay.
So it's just fun to think about all these options, right? Like, you know, like I said off the top, there's so many trade rumors just because it doesn't fit. There's no system that fits. We were talking last episode about the Toronto Blue Jays, and one thing that Toronto management said is we're not too worried about the fit. We want talent, and we'll make it fit.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Why get rid of something that's not broken or really good?
We have too many defensemen. We need to trade one for nothing.
Yeah. Why?
Oh, all right. That makes
why make yourselves worse when?
Yeah. Exactly. I don't. So anyway, like sort of as a proof of concept, these are. It blew my mind how social media shot this idea down so fast, and all they had to do was stop looking at their shoes, look up a little bit, look around.
Just think about it, man. What's baseball been doing the last, like, with all the change in their friggin' way the style of the game is now played, like the defensive shifts and batters, all the numbers and stuff like that. Like, baseball's changed so much.
Running a reliever to start the game as opposed to a starter.
So all these ideas are really born from the analytics community.
Yeah.
In baseball. And the NHL is going to start. I mean, the analytics in the NHL is come a long way in recent years. They're starting to have trackers on players now. Was that last year or this year?
I think they did it in the playoffs this year.
Well, they used it for the All-Star game. Yeah, I don't know if they used it for the playoffs.
I think they had them on in the playoffs this year.
I'm not sure what sort of data they're going to be pulling from players.
Too much.
Well, I know max speed, velocity,
track true
distance, true ice, exactly.
Like heart beats per minute and all that shit too.
Right. So I'm wondering just what.
And they probably got things like out in public that public doesn't even know.
Right. So when teams start really digesting, the league starts really digesting that information. Who knows what's going to come, what data is going to come from it. Yeah. I'm just getting back to these three trios I put together.
Like, our ideas, they're going to be wrong sometimes when you do them on the ice because accidents happen and you get scored on.
Sure.
But it's about it not the better outweighing the bad in terms of percentage. And if, like, you know what I mean?
Odds.
Yeah.
And if you're worried about time on ice, I mean, like, guys like Gerard, Yossi, Jones, Ellis, Weber, Ekholm, those guys could play half the game almost anyway.
Most of those guys do play half the game.
Yeah.
But imagine those guys only have to play 22 minutes now.
Yeah.
Like your forwards. Your forwards, like, everybody's going to play the same amount of time. Nobody's overworked. Nobody's underworked. And if somebody's having a better game than somebody else, it's easy to, hey, you're sitting. He's getting more ice time.
Easy shift.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've seen some creative stuff at the AHL level. So I remember going to games watching the Toronto Marlies play. And they were doing some crazy. This was 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago now, when they had teams. It was a little bit like they were playing with their food. But when they had the lead and late in the third period, the other team would pull their goalie. The Marlies would stack 4 of their players on their own blue line, and they would put a defenseman behind their own net because you knew the opposition was going to fire the puck in the zone. They were going to dump the puck in, and that defenseman behind was just waiting behind their own net.
I think I remember I've been at a couple games where I saw them do that.
Yeah, and he just knocked the puck down and get rid of it. And occasionally, somebody would squeak in. They'd skate the puck into the blue line because it's 6 versus 4 at the blue line.
Yeah.
But like, I guess they found statistically that it wasn't worthwhile, but they were trying it.
Yeah.
They tried some creative stuff. So let's not rain on the parade of an idea, like, try it at a certain level. And of course, again, like we said, if you have the personnel, we're not saying every team go and try this, but if you have the personnel to do something, instead of trading them and basically
getting nothing for it.
Well, when other teams say,
a way worse player.
When other teams say, hey, you have too many of this, well, we know you have to trade it, so we're not going to give you, like for example, like the Vancouver Canucks. I guess we'll talk about this in a couple episodes from now, but the Vancouver Canucks got Nate Schmidt for nothing.
Yeah.
Because, well, that was cap reasons, which of course you have to, but it's like, hey, team, you got Preds. Listen, yeah, we'll be happy to take your 7th and 8th best defenseman from you, but we're not going to give you fair value or whatever because you have to trade it.
Yeah.
Why don't you use what you got?
That was basically, I'm pretty sure, why Seth Jones got
the thing
traded.
Is, though,
essentially.
If your idea works, those players become more valuable.
Yeah.
And increasing the trade value. So you can be like, call that guy back and be like, hey, price just doubled, asshole.
Hey, yeah, you're trying to say, hey, other GM. Yeah, exactly.
No, well, you call back. You were just like, hey, that guy, you got too much of those defensemen. And then playing your 3 defensemen on the ice, get them all, get the ice time, the touches
points,
and stuff like that, the points. Call the guy back. It's 2 first this time.
Watch this. Watch this. I mean, you just look at other sports too, right? Like in football.
Football, they're going for 4th down more often.
Yeah, right.
Kicking less field goals because kickers can't kick field goals anymore.
That's a percentage thing, though, right?
Right. Yeah, and just think on any. But think of it like more like on a micro level, like a running back on any given play, he might run, he might catch the ball, he might block. He can do more than one thing, right? Just like if you have a baseball team with several guys who are shortstop in quotation marks, a shortstop should be able to play pretty much any position,
except for maybe first.
To be honest with you, if you claim to be a shortstop and can't play like other positions, you're not a shortstop.
Oh no, of course. Like I played shortstop a lot growing up, and I never played first base. I got sent to first. First base is like a different world, though.
It is, but
yeah, I could do the whole catching thing. It's just like the whole, because there's so many different positional spots when you're being a first baseman. I was like, man, this is so different than like
it's more timing.
Playing in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of the field. You can like angle where the guy, you can tell where the guy's going to hit the ball. So you can set, when you're standing like on the corner, you're like, just don't line it at me. Just don't line it at me. Just don't line it at me.
Whereas we're talking like these mobile defensemen that are creative. Wayne Gretzky watching Hughes at the All-Star game. He said, this kid has so much, I don't remember what he said exactly, but this kid has such good hands.
And he's not used to seeing that on a defenseman.
So, hey, we're just throwing an idea out there. Anything to add to this conversation, guys?
Not really.
No?
I don't see it ever happening, to be honest.
Not now. Maybe 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. The coach, the game is right like now where it's at. It's ran by too many old farts.
Well, yeah, and
aren't willing to try something.
And you might have like down the road like this is a 4-1 team. You're playing the 4-1 team, or you're playing the 2-3 team.
Sounds like you're talking about soccer.
Yeah,
formations.
Maybe.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, it's just like this is a different formation team. You got to play it differently.
Yeah.
This next team's a different formation team. It's just play with what you got. Or make it the way you want to play it.
And at any given time, imagine you have 4 lines. Hold on, you have 4 lines, and imagine not knowing what line they're going to throw because you have home ice advantage. Whoever's home ice, you can put out whatever you want.
Whenever you want.
Yeah. Whereas now it's like, oh, we're going to go from having our first line and first D pair out. We're going to go to our third line, but 2 forwards and 3 defensemen, and basically rotating that on the fly. That's just adds another wrinkle as well. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I lost my track of that. It's more like, because Leafs are so heavily into the analytics now with Dubas as the GM.
Yep.
I think they could probably be one of the first teams to do it. They got a younger management core.
Sure.
Like run it differently.
It seems like the Leafs always got like different, fresh ideas that other teams aren't.
Sure. Well, that's where this article stemmed from. Was somebody, and to be honest,
well, that's when that article came from. An idea where the Marlies did it a few years ago, where Keefe was the coach. Thought about it when Keefe was the coach. It's always Keefe's idea, but it's definitely if Keefe was the coach of that team where the assistant came up with that idea, it's definitely been through his head.
And you never know where that idea was. That idea could have been at a bar in Milwaukee at 10:00 at night. It could have been a conversation. You don't know, but it was an idea. And at least you know what? At least people are being creative. Like,
well, you're not being creative until you do it.
Until you do it, but you're thinking creatively.
Well, and I just remembered this past playoffs, the Leafs put out five forwards in the last minute when they were trying to score against Columbus.
Why not?
They didn't. They did it.
They did it.
And they tied the game, and it worked. So why not?
Why not? Cool. All right, guys. If that's it, we'll wrap it up, and we'll send to the last minute play here. So let's think about it like this, boys. Sports is all about the what ifs. That's why we watch. That's why we play. What if a team picked this guy ahead of that guy? Even NHL.com does these draft re-rankings.
Friggin' Yuri Kalustri.
like I know they're trying to generate content, but hey, let's remind our franchises how bad they screwed up the draft picks. In sports, there's always one winner, so the rest of the league is always left wondering what if. So when someone asks, hey, what if we do something a little different? Be sure to shake your fist and yell at them. Nothing more powerful than a group of old men yelling at a cloud. So how dare you maybe think of something slightly different. Okay, enough for this, guys. Everybody, thanks for listening. We have a couple of clouds to go yell at ourselves. So we'll see you later.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on Twitter @DraftInHand.